Hey there, hope you're having a wonderful day. In this video, we're going to be coding the game Flappy Bird. Now, this game was very popular a while back, several years ago actually, and I think I was in high school at the time. And for those of you who don't know, basically you have this bird called the Flappy Bird, and you press a key to jump, and as you move on, there are these pipes that are in the way, and you have to dodge these pipes. And every time you dodge the pipes, your score goes up by 1. And if you collide against the pipe, then you lose. So that's basically how the game works, and this is what you'll get by the end of the tutorial. In addition, I will also show you how to reset the game by tapping the key. So you can see I am playing the game, and I collide with the pipe, I lose. I press the key again, and we restart. Okay? Alright, before we begin, I just want to quickly mention that I am working on a web dev tutorial series where I create game programming projects using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So these are all the tutorials available on my channel, and you can also see them on kennycoding.com. So I have Space Invaders, Chrome, Dinosaur Game, and Flappy Bird. And I also have Wordle, Sudoku, 2048, Connect 4, and so on. So there will be more games added to this list, and if you're interested and you want to stay up to date, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Alright, so let's begin. So before you start writing your code, make sure you click on the GitHub link down below in the video description and clone the repo. You want these 4 images, so we have the bottom pipe, the top pipe, the Flappy Bird, and the background image. So make sure you download the images and place them into your folder. So to begin, create 3 files, index.html, flappybird.css, and flappybird.js. Alright, so with the HTML, we're just going to do doctype, HTML. We're going to have our HTML tag here, and inside it we'll have our head tag. And we're just going to add some quick metadata, so meta charset is equal to UTF-8, meta name is equal to viewport, content is equal to width equals device width, initial scale is going to be 1.0. Let's also give a title to our web page, so let's call it Flappy Bird. And then let's link our style sheet, so link rel is equal to style sheet, href is going to be flappybird.css. Let's also link our JavaScript file, so script source is going to be flappybird.js. And that's it for our head tag. Now below our head tag, let's add a body tag, and the only tag we need is the canvas tag for our game. We're going to give the canvas tag an ID of board. That way we can access this canvas using JavaScript. So with this ID, we are going to access this canvas tag to draw the Flappy Bird game and update the frames with JavaScript. Alright, let's move on to our CSS. So for the style sheet, it's going to be very simple. We're going to add a style for the body. So we're going to use a font family, Courier New. And then we're going to do text align center. So this is going to align all the text and our canvas to the center of our page. And then for our board, which is our canvas tag, I'm going to access it using the ID board. So hash board. And we're going to give it a background color of sky blue. Okay. Alright, so now if I open up my index.html file, you can see we have our web page, we have our title Flappy Bird here, and we have our canvas that is centered, and it has a sky blue background. Alright, so now for our JavaScript, let's start creating the game. So I need some variables, so let's create some variables for the board itself, which is the canvas. I'm going to create a variable board, which will access the canvas tag. And let's set a board width so this is going to be 360 pixels, and a board height, which is going to be 640 pixels, and a context. So this is going to be used for drawing on our canvas. Alright, so when our page loads, we're going to do window.onload. We're going to call a function, and we're going to assign board to document.getElementById board. So we're getting this element with the ID board, which is this canvas tag. And we're going to set the board height to our variable board height, and board.width to board width. Let's also set the context. So for the context, we're going to set it as board.getContext, and we're going to pass in a string 2D. So again, this is used for drawing on the board. Alright, so now if I refresh the page, you can see we have our canvas here, and it has a width of 360 pixels and a height of 640 pixels. So this sky blue background is just here to show you the canvas dimensions, so you can see how big it is. Now that we have our dimensions set, let's put the background image instead of this color. So this right here is going to be the background image, and it's flappybirdbg.png. So in our board, in our CSS file, we are going to comment this out, and we're going to type in background image and set it to URL, and this is going to be /flappybirdbg.png. Alright, so now we have our background image. And I chose these numbers for a reason, and that is because our background image has these exact dimensions. It is 360 pixels wide and 640 pixels tall. Okay? Alright, so now that we have our canvas set up, let's add the Flappy Bird. So again, I would need some variables for our bird. So let's set the bird width to 34. And the bird height, we're going to give it 24 pixels. And so the actual image is, by width to height ratio, it is 408 by 228. So it is 408 pixels wide and 228 pixels tall. So this gives us a ratio of 17 to 12. So 34 to 24 is the ratio 17 to 12. So when drawing the bird on the screen, we want to specify 4 parameters: the X and Y position of where to place it on the canvas, and how big to draw the bird, which is the width and the height. So for the bird X position, I'm going to set it to board width divided by 8. And for the Y position, I'm going to set it to board height divided by 2. So over here you can see we have our canvas, and I want to draw the bird over here. So to get to this point, we need to get the height divided by 2 as the Y position, and for the X position it would be the width divided by 8. So this would give us this point on the canvas, and then we need to specify the width and the height, like so. So to get to this point, we would just go like this, width divided by 8, and then we're going to do height divided by 2 down. So those are our X and Y coordinates. Alright, so these are our 4 parameters, and just to make it easier, I'm going to create a JavaScript object and name it bird. And it's going to be very simple. So X is going to be bird X, Y is going to be bird Y, width is going to be bird width, and height is going to be bird height. So we have our bird object here with the 4 parameters. So let's draw the bird. So let's draw the Flappy Bird here. And I'm going to do context.fillStyle and set it to green. So this changes the pen color to green. And to draw the bird, let's start off as a rectangle. I'm going to do context.fillRect, bird.x, bird.y, bird.width, and bird.height. Now if I refresh the page, you can see we have our Flappy Bird here. The x position is the width divided by 1/8, and the y position is the board height divided by 2, which gets us over here. And we have a width of 34 pixels and a height of 24 pixels. Okay? So now that we have that set up, let's replace this rectangle with the actual image of the Flappy Bird. So for the image, let's add a variable called bird image. And then down here, let's load the image. So I'm going to set bird image to a new image object. And we're going to set the image.source to /flappybird.png. So it's going to be this image right here. So to draw the image, we're going to do context.drawImage. And this function is similar to fillRect, except there's an additional parameter for the image. So we're going to pass in bird image, bird.x, bird.y, bird.width, and bird.height. So if I refresh the page, you can see we still have this green rectangle, but there's no Flappy Bird. And the reason is because even though we have this context.drawImage, this bird image variable, it hasn't loaded the image yet. So what we need to do is bird image.onload. So similar to window.onload, when this image gets loaded, we're going to call a function and we're going to paint the bird onto the canvas. So now if I refresh the page, once the bird image gets loaded, we draw the bird on our canvas. So now that we have the Flappy Bird on the canvas, we don't need this green rectangle anymore. So let's comment it out. Alright, now we have our Flappy Bird on the canvas. Alright, so now that I have the bird on the canvas, let's create a function called update. And this is going to be used for updating the frames of the canvas. So that is going to redraw the canvas over and over again. So this is basically our main game loop. So below here, I'm going to call the update function. So request animation frame update. And inside this function, I'm going to do the same thing, request animation frame update. And every time we update our frame, we want to clear the previous frame. So I'm going to do context.clearRect, and it's going to cover the entire canvas. So starting from 0, 0, which is the top left corner of the canvas, and the range is going to be board.width and board.height. So every time we redraw on our canvas, we want to clear the previous frame, otherwise the frames will stack on top of each other. And then within our update function, we're going to draw the bird over and over again for each frame. So context.drawImage is going to be the same thing, bird image, bird.x, bird.y, bird.width, and bird.height. Alright, so now if I refresh the page, you can see nothing has really changed from our perspective, but our game is actually now in a loop. So the frame is being updated and we can't really tell because we don't have any commands to make the bird move. So it's actually updating the frame and each frame is actually the same. We just have this bird being painted in this exact position over and over again. But after we add the pipes and make the bird move, you'll be able to see how the game loop works. So let's start by adding the pipes. So similar to how we added variables for the Flappy Bird, we are going to need some variables for the pipes. Throughout the game, we are going to be generating these pipes, and we need to keep track of all of them. Because we have multiple pipes, we need to use an array to store them. So let's create an array called pipe array. And similarly, we're going to declare the width, height, x position, and y position for the pipes. So let's add pipe width. This is going to be 64 pixels. And pipe height is going to be 512 pixels. So the width and height ratio is going to be 384 to 3072, which is 1/8. So for the actual image, the dimensions are, the width is 384 pixels and the height is 3072 pixels. So we scaled it to 1/8. So 64 divided by 512 is equal to 1/8, which is why we are using these numbers. And for the x position, I'm going to set it to board width. And for the y position, I'm going to set it to 0. So just as a recap, we are going to place the pipe starting from this corner, so this position, and we said the x is going to be board.width, which is 360 pixels, and the y is going to be 0. So it's going to be 360 pixels and 0. So this is the starting point for drawing the pipes. And we said the width is going to be 64 pixels and the height is going to be 512 pixels. So the starting point for our pipes is going to look something like this. Okay? So to draw the pipes, we are going to need to load the images first. So over here, let's add a variable for the top pipe. So this is top pipe image, and we're going to add a bottom pipe image. And over here, let's just load the image when our page gets loaded. So this is going to initialize the two variables we just created. So top pipe image is going to be a new image object, and the source is going to be ./top_pipe.png. So this right here is going to be the image used for the top pipe. And let's also do the same for the bottom pipe. So bottom pipe image is going to be a new image object. And we're going to set the source to be ./bottompipe.png. So it's going to be this image over here. Alright, so now that we have our images loaded, we need to create a function that would generate the pipes for us. So over here, I'm going to call setInterval, and it's going to call the function placePipes every 1500 milliseconds. So 1500 milliseconds is equal to every 1.5 seconds. So let's define that function over here. placePipes. So within this function, I'm going to create a variable called topPipe, and it's going to be an object with a properties image. So for the top pipe, we are going to use the top pipe image, and we're going to set 4 additional parameters, which is the x. So this is pipe x, and y is going to be pipe y. Width is going to be pipe width, and height is going to be pipe height. And let's also add one more property, and that is past. So I'm going to set this to false. And what this property checks for is to see if the Flappy Bird has passed this pipe yet. So now that we have this top pipe object, let's add it to our array. So pipe array dot push top pipe. Okay, so now every 1.5 seconds, we're going to call this function place pipes, and it's going to add a new pipe to our array, just as we defined here, okay? Now that we have our pipes generating every 1.5 seconds, we need to update our canvas to show these pipes. So over here, let's add the pipes. So we're going to loop through our pipe array for let I equals 0, I less than pipe array dot length, I plus plus. We're going to do let pipe equal to pipe array at that position. And then we're going to do context.draw image pipe.image, pipe.image, pipe.x, pipe.y, pipe.width, and pipe.height. So if I refresh the page now, you can't see it, but we are drawing the pipes. And the reason why you can't see it is because we drew the pipes over here. So we drew the pipes off the canvas. So it's not visible. We need to bring the pipes into the canvas. And to do that, we need to make the pipes move left. So we need to create a new variable called velocity x so that we can have our pipes x position, which is 360. We want to bring it towards the left. So this velocity x is going to be negative because this over here is 0. And over here, to the right, is positive. So we want to bring it to the left, so we need a negative velocity x. When we're doing game programming, physically on the screen, the Flappy Bird never moves out of this exact pixel position. Instead, we are making the pipes move towards the left, so it simulates the Flappy Bird moving towards the right. So over here, I'm going to add a new section called game physics, and we're going to have a velocity x, and I'm going to set it to -2. So this is the pipes moving left speed. And then over here within our update function, right before I draw the pipe, for each one, I'm going to update the pipe x position. So pipe.x plus equal velocity x. So over time, I am shifting the x position of each pipe 2 pixels to the left because, again, velocity x is -2. Alright, now if I refresh the page, you can see we have our pipes, and each pipe starts from this top right corner, and each one has a width of 64 pixels and a height of 512 pixels. And over time, each pipe is moving to the left by 2 pixels per frame. So now that we have our top pipe, we want to randomly place these pipes so that they're not always in the same position. So within our place pipes function, I'm going to create a new variable called random pipe y. And this is going to be pipe y by default. So let's replace this with random pipe y. And this actually doesn't change anything for now because all we did was just create an extra variable that has the same value. But what I want to do here is I want to adjust the pipe y position. So let's start by subtracting pipe height divided by 4. So what does this do? So currently the y position is 0, and I took pipe y, which is 0, and subtract the height divided by 4. So this is 512 divided by 4, which is 128. So 0 minus 128 is -128. So -128 pixels. So this is going to be above the canvas. So what I'm doing is I am shifting the pipe upwards by 128 pixels. So now I should expect the pipe to not be all the way down here. Instead, it should probably stop somewhere around here. So this is what we should expect the pipe to be. So only 3/4 of the pipe will now be visible. Alright, so now if I refresh the page, you can see the Y position of the pipes have been shifted upwards, and now you can only see 3/4 of its height. So this is what we currently have, and what I'm going to add is, or rather subtract, is math.random times pipe height divided by 2. Okay? So what does this do? Math.random returns a value between 0 and 1, and I'm multiplying this by pipe height divided by 2. So pipe height divided by 2. So if random returns 0, we are going to have our Y position be negative 120 pixels, which is basically pipe height divided by 4. And if we have math.random return 1, this is going to be negative 128 minus 256, because pipe height is 512. 512 divided by 2 is 256. So this is pipe height divided by 4 and pipe height divided by 2. So this is equal to 2/4. So this is the same as saying minus 3/4 of pipe height. So the range can go from 1/4 or 3/4 shifting upwards. Alright, so now if I refresh the page, you can see that the Y position of our pipe will now range from negative 1/4 of the pipe height to negative 3/4 of the pipe height. So it's somewhere in between. And now that we have our top pipe, let's also add the bottom pipe. So our game should look something like this. We have our top pipe and some opening space and a bottom pipe. So for the top pipe, we gave it a random Y position, which can range from negative 1/4 of the height to negative 3/4 of the height. And from there, from that Y position, we want to add some space in between, and then we want to add our bottom pipe Y position. So our bottom pipe Y position should start somewhere here, depending on where the top pipe Y position falls. So to get from this point on the very top to the point where we would draw our bottom pipe, we need to first get the Y position of the top pipe. So top Y position, we want to add the height of the pipe so that we can get over here, and then we want to add some opening. By adding that opening space, we would get to this Y position. So again, the top over here plus the height plus the opening, okay? And that will get us this position over here. So similar to how we set up our top pipe, I'm going to create an object for the bottom pipe. And the image is going to be bottom pipe image. X is going to be the same thing, pipe X. However, Y is going to be random pipe Y plus the pipe height plus the opening space. So let's define opening space. How wide do we want the distance between two pipes to be? So what I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to define opening space, and I'm going to set it to board.height divided by 4. So this should be enough room for the bird to travel through. So now that we have our opening space, we have a defined Y position for the bottom pipe. So let's continue with the properties. We're going to have a width of pipe width, a height of pipe height, and we're going to have another property called passed, and this is going to be false by default. So let's now add our bottom pipe to the pipe array. Alright, so now if I refresh the page, you can see we have our top pipe. We have an opening space which is equal to 1/4 of the board height. And then we have our bottom pipe. So now that we have our pipes, let's make the bird jump. So just for a quick physics lesson, when we want to make the bird jump, we need to supply it with a y velocity. And in this case, to make it jump with a upward velocity, we need a negative number, because over here is 0 and over here is 640 pixels. So going up is negative and going down is positive. So to jump, you need a velocity y. And velocity is basically the rate at which the bird changes its y position. So let's say we make the velocity y -6. So the first frame, the bird is going to change position and go up -6. And then the second frame is going to go up -6 again. And the third frame is going to go up -6. And over time, it's just going to keep going up forever. So this is where gravity comes into play. We need to supply some form of gravity so that the velocity changes over time as well. So gravity is the change in velocity over time. And let's say I want to set a gravity to +2, because again, positive means going down and negative means going up. Then this changes things, because now, over time, our bird is basically going -6 for the first frame. Then we change the velocity, y, and add 2, so now it's -4. And then it's going to be -2, and then 0. And remember, gravity is still going through each frame, so now the velocity y is going to be in the y positive position. So now the bird goes back down, 2, then 4, and then 6, and then of course it's just going to keep increasing 8 unless we tap our jump key again. So if I tap my jump key again, I'm going to reset the velocity y back to -6. So this is basically how jumping works in video games, or rather in real life. Basically, the time it takes for you to go all the way up and stop is the same time it takes for you to land back down. And of course, if you're jumping off a cliff or there's nothing for you to land on, you're just going to keep on accelerating downwards at a greater speed. Okay? So that's how the physics works for jumping. Alright, so to make the bird jump, I need to give the bird a velocity y. So down here, I'm going to create a new variable called velocity y, and I'm going to set this as 0. So this is the bird jump speed. So if the velocity y is 0, this means that the bird is not jumping at all. It's not changing y position. In order to make the bird jump, I need to tap on a key. And when I tap on the key, I want to update the velocity y to make it a negative number. So first, let's go down here and add an event listener. So document.add event listener. And it's going to listen for a key down. Basically, whenever you tap on a key, it's going to call the moveBird function. So here, the page is going to be constantly listening for key events. So every time you tap on a key, it's going to call this moveBird function, which we're going to define. So down here, I'm going to create a new function called moveBird, and it's going to take in a parameter e, which is the key event, and it's going to make a check. If e.code is equal to space, or e.code is equal to arrow up, we're going to make the bird jump. So the velocity y, we're going to set it to -6. Okay? And if your screen is a little small, then if you tap the arrow key or space, it might move your page up. So you can change the e.code to, let's say, key X, so that if you tap on the X key, the bird will jump. Alright, so now that we have supplied a velocity, let's add it in our update function. So over here, right before we draw the bird, I'm going to update bird.y and add velocity y to it. So remember, velocity y is a negative number. So we are changing the position, the y position of the bird to move upwards. Alright, if I refresh the page now and I press a space key or the X or an arrow up, you can see the bird is now jumping. But it's jumping -6 pixels up each frame, and because there is no gravity, it's just going up forever. So we need to add some gravity so that we can bring the bird down. So let's create a variable called gravity and set it to 0.4. And this is a positive number, so the bird is going to go downwards due to gravity. And as we mentioned, gravity is the rate of change for the velocity over time. So over here, right before we change the position of the bird using the velocity, we need to update the velocity and apply gravity to it. Okay? Now if I refresh and I tap the key to make it jump, you can see for an instant the bird is going upwards, but then eventually gravity brings it down. So I need to constantly tap the key to make the bird go up. Okay? And one issue is we didn't define a limit to how high the bird can jump. So even though we have gravity, if I constantly press the key to make the bird jump, the bird is just going to constantly go up. So we need to fix this issue. So over here, I'm going to change bird.y. So instead of directly adding the velocity, I'm going to set it to math.max. So it's either going to be bird.y plus velocity y or 0. So 0 is the top of the canvas. So this is going to either apply gravity to current bird.y, or it's going to make sure it doesn't go past the top of the canvas. Alright, so if I refresh the page now and I try to make the bird jump, you can see the bird cannot go past 0, which is the top of the canvas. So now that the bird is able to jump and we have our pipes moving towards the left, we need to add some logic to check for collision. Alright, so down here, let's create a function called detect collision. And it's going to take in two rectangles, A and B. So the rectangles are going to be comparing the positions of the bird and the pipes. So I'm going to return a boolean. So this is a.x less than b.x plus b.width, and a.x plus a.width is greater than b.x, and a.y less than b.y plus b.height, and a.y plus a.height is greater than b.y. Okay, so this is our logic for checking collision between two rectangles. So when we detect a collision, the game is going to be over. So I need to add another variable over here called gameOver, and by default this is going to be false. So over here, I'm going to make a check. So we're going to do if detect collision, bird and pipe, we're going to set game over to true. So if it's game over, we want to stop painting the canvas. So over here, I'm going to do if game over, return. Likewise, over here, if game over, I don't want to create new pipes. The game is already over, so let's just return as well. Alright, so if I refresh the page and I play the game and I collide with a pipe, the game is over and the canvas no longer updates. And just to show you one more time, I can go like this. Game over, canvas stops updating. Now, there's another way for game over to happen, and that is I fall down like that. So let's include that logic. So within our update function, after we update the y position of the bird, I want to make a check. If bird.y is greater than board.height, this means that the y position of the bird has gone past the height of the canvas. I'm going to set game over to true. So if I refresh the page and I play the game like so, and I fall down, the canvas stops painting. So the game is over. Alright, so now that we have created the functions for the game, let's add a score. So over here, I'm going to add a variable called score and initialize it to 0. And then within our update function, I want to draw the score. So over here, I'm going to do context.fillStyle, and I'm going to set it to white. So this is going to be the color of the font that we use to draw the score. And I'm going to set context.font equal to 45 pixels sans serif. So this is going to be the font style for our score. And to draw the text for the score, I'm going to write context.fillText score, and we're going to give it an x position of 5 and a y position of 45. So we should update the score every time the bird passes through a set of pipes. So within this for loop, I'm going to do if not pipe.passed. So we want to make sure that the bird has not already passed this pipe, and bird.x is greater than pipe.x plus pipe.width. So pipe.x is the left corner of the pipe, and we want to add the width so we can get the right corner of the pipe. So once the bird x position has passed the right side of the pipe, we want to increment the score. So I'm going to do score plus equal 1. And then we're going to set pipe.passed to true so that we don't double check. Alright, if I refresh the page now and I play the game, you can see the score is updating, but it is updating in pairs of 2 because each pipe has a partner, right? So there's the top pipe and the bottom pipe. So instead of updating by 2, we want it to update by 1. So we're going to do score plus equal 0.5. So this is 0.5 because there are 2 pipes. So 0.5 times 2 is going to be 1. 1 for each set of pipes. Alright, so now if I refresh the page, and now every time the bird goes past a set of pipes, the score only increments by 1. Now, there is one issue that we should address, and that is over time, as the pipes move towards the left, eventually they go off the canvas. And every 1.5 seconds, we are generating 2 new pipes. Eventually, the array is going to be very big, and this will cause memory issues. And because we're using a for loop, we don't want to go through all the pipes that have gone off screen. So instead, we should clear those pipes. So over here, let's clear the pipes. So while pipe array dot length is greater than 0, and pipe array at index 0, which is the first pipe in the array, dot x is less than 0. So we're checking the x position to see if it has gone past 0, which is a negative number. Then what we're going to do is pipe array dot shift. So this removes first element from the array. So this is going to be a while loop that checks for all the pipes that have gone towards the left and off the canvas. Alright, now we refresh the page and we play the game. You can see as soon as the pipes touch 0, or rather the X position of the pipes touch 0, they disappear because we removed them from the array. However, instead of making it 0, we want to make it negative width. That way it accounts for the right side of the pipes. So over here, instead of 0, we want negative pipe width. So this will be the same as saying 0 minus pipe width, which is just negative pipe width. So this is going to be the right side of the pipe. Alright, so now if I refresh the page, you can see the pipes only disappear and get removed from the array after the right side of the pipes go off the canvas. Okay? Alright, so now let's add one more thing, and that is I want to be able to reset the game without refreshing the page. So to do that, I need to update my moveBird function to check to see if it's game over. But before that, let's also add text to show on the canvas when it's game over. So if game over, we're going to do context.fill text game over, and the X position is going to be 5 and the Y position is going to be 90. So you can see game over if I fall down, and then if I collide with a pipe, game over. Alright, so to reset the game, I just want to tap on the same key that I would to make the bird jump. So I'm going to reset the game here, and I'm going to check for game over. And basically, to reset the game, all you need to do is reset the properties to their default values. So I need to reset bird.y back to bird.y, because over time as I jump and as gravity is being applied, only the Y position changes. And another thing I need to do is to clear the pipes. So to do that, let's just set pipe array to an empty array. We also need to bring the score back to 0 and set game over to false. Okay, so basically to reset the game, you just need to restore the game back to the default starting state. Alright, so I refresh the page. You can see our score is incrementing. And if I collide with the pipes, game over. All I need to do is tap the same key to jump, and here we have it. So we have a fully functional game of Flappy Bird. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial, and if you found this tutorial helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. And one challenge I want to give you is, as an enhancement to this game, the player should be able to click on the mouse to make the bird jump. Okay, so that's one challenge I have for you to continue working on this game. And yeah, that's it for this video tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.